Hi guys, I'm Mike and this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome to a special episode, and that is our review of Drive to Survive Season 2. And just a disclaimer at the start of this video, if you're about to watch this and you haven't watched Drive to Survive Season 2 and you don't want any spoilers, do not watch this review, because this review comes through spoilers with things. I'll talk about things that actually happen in the series. But that aside, I'll explain how I'm going to do this review. So basically, I'm going to give some kind of points of what were my highlights from the series, what I think was done really well. I'll also go into some things I think it could have done better and some criticisms I've seen in the series from people who haven't really enjoyed it. And then I'll kind of give my overall conclusions of what I thought of Drive to Survive Season 2. And hopefully you guys enjoy it, but make sure you kind of hang around for the whole video and check out what I've got to say. So guys, we'll start off with the highlights, and for me, this series, more than most, it really kind of looked at behind the scenes and the way that the teams really operated. The kind of two standout ones for me were the Mercedes episode and the Williams episode. And the Mercedes episode was really fantastic to kind of see how this dominating and team really operates and really functions. And you can just saw when Germany happened how much it hurt them. Even though they've been so successful, they were smashing the season up until this point. This was the first race where things didn't go wrong, and yes, they did go very wrong, but you could see how much it hurt them and they wanted to get back up. You can see what a team community it is. You could see how much of a really good team boss Toto Wolff is. And Toto Wolff, for me, he's got to be the best team principal on the grid, surely. Just the way that he gets the best out of people. He is so good in his media and PR role. He so keeps that team running. He gets all the moving parts of Mercedes and gets them going in the right direction. And yeah, it was just really amazing to kind of get an insight into him. And also a highlight from that episode was how they showed how important Niki Lauda was to Mercedes. How important he was to bring in Lewis Hamilton, how important he was to kind of Toto Wolff as kind of a sounding board, as a partner, as a friend, just how much Niki Lauda meant to Mercedes as a team. And it reminded us of how much Niki Lauda means to us as supporters of the sport. He's an F1 legend and he will be missed this season in the F1 paddock. A true legend of what he overcame and what he achieved in his F1 career and what he achieved post F1 career. So it was a really nice kind of tribute to the memory of Niki Lauda, and yeah, he shall be missed. Another one of the highlights, Mercedes linked teams, was Williams. And Williams, this great F1 team, they struggled so much last year not kind of getting to testing, and it really showed kind of the behind the scenes. It showed what the team means to Claire. I thought Claire Williams actually came across as a really good team principal in this. You got to put these things in place, and yeah, she relied on Paddy Lowe, who had been so successful through the sport, through Williams through the 90s, McLaren's through the noughties, through Mercedes 2014 to 2016, and you were just like, this guy's got so much experience, so good, and kind of the innovation. I think he was behind the active suspension, I think it came out, and it was just a complete shock and surprise how badly it went wrong for Paddy Lowe. And that kind of real tension you got when Claire had seen Paddy for the first time after realising that the car wasn't going to be out for testing, and it was just, yeah, you could cut that tension with a knife. It was kind of real honest, and yeah, it was open. There was nothing kind of hidden in sight there, and obviously detailed on the Paddy Lowe parting ways on that front. But I thought it was a really good insight. It was great to see George Russell, Robert Kubica, what Claire thinks of the team and how she's trying to drive the team forward, and was a really kind of eye-opener of the struggles of Williams. And yeah, I've said it many times and I'll say it many times before, because it's such a great team in F1, I think people are just desperate for it to get competitive again. No one deserves the right to win, But you know, Williams, you just feel you want to see do well, I think. And for F1, for them doing well is a good thing. For me, what was a highlight from season 1 continues being a highlight in season 2 is the way that it looks, and you get to know the drivers a little bit more. It shows the human side to F1. F1 on the kind of Sky TV or on F1 TV, however you watch it, however you kind of see the things, it can, you know, sometimes see just this flash perfect model, everything goes right, and you know, these are just kind of people pushing boundaries there, and obviously they do amazing work and they're so talented in terms of the engineers, the drivers, everyone in F1 is kind of at such a high level. But, you know, human beings make mistakes, human beings have feelings, and it really kind of shows, you know, the stories of Alexander Albon was fascinating to hear, and you know, to see his journey, you know, into the kind of Red Bull seat last year. Pierre Gasly, seeing how he struggled, how it just didn't work out for him, you know, seeing that kind of difficult kind of to and fro relationship with Vettel and Leclerc, where, you know, they're both nice guys and so they're not going to be horrible to each other, but at the end of the day they've got that inner grit that they want to be the number one, they want to be the world champion. So, you know, it was really kind of interesting to see that. It was interesting to see Nico Hulkenberg's, you know, human side. For me, a lot of the time, you know, he would, in those kind of one-on-one interviews, he would have like a awkward smile at the camera, and you just kind of were like, he was smiling, but you know, you look in his eyes, you know, like, he's hurting. He knows this didn't go right, and he so desperately wanted to succeed. And I didn't like it in the way that they built up the podium so much. And I think a lot of us knew that that result in Germany, when he kind of DNF'd, when he was running in a podium position, was probably what made up Renault's mind there. But you know, the tough struggles of back in Canada when he was asked to hold position, yeah, I kind of felt a bit sorry for Nico, but it is the harsh reality of sport, and you gotta sometimes make your own luck, and things were going against him, admittedly, but at the end of the day, he didn't deliver when he had that opportunity, and it was difficult to see because, you know, you could see how much he desperately wanted it. It was also interesting to see Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo. They kind of made a rivalry out of nowhere in terms of that, but obviously they were two talented drivers in the midfield who desperately want to prove that they're best, and they will be. You know, it was interesting to see. It was something actually, you know, that as F1 fans, I think if you said before Drive to Survive came out that, you know, there wouldn't be anything between Carlos and Daniel, but it was interesting to see behind the scenes that yes, with editing they may have kind of exaggerated more than it is, but definitely within that there was that bit of that tussle and to and fro between Carlos and Daniel, really wanting to kind of assert their authority and prove, you know, who was better in terms of that. And that was really fascinating for me to see. But you know, that is the real strong points. I think a lot of Drive to Survive is aimed at kind of generating new fans, new followers into the sports to take a further interest. But also for me, who's obviously a fan of the sport, I like seeing the drivers a little bit more away from the cameras, away from the human side. You know, seeing how much Germany, you know, watching Lewis Hamilton look back at the replay and just seeing how much, you know, this is a guy who at that stage is a 5-time world champion, going for his 6th world championship, and it just hurts him so much that he's made this mistake and let the team down. And that's a human side that I like more seeing of Lewis Hamilton, rather than a lot of the times I can see with Lewis. He's very good at just saying the right things for the media, getting away, but this actually for me opened up and saw Lewis a bit more, the Lewis that is away from the usual kind of Sky TV cameras, and the Lewis that actually is Lewis Hamilton. The last one I will say is in episode 6. It covered Spa and obviously covered that tragic accident with Antoine Hubert, and I actually think they covered that really well and in a respectful way. It was very difficult, you know, for a lot of people. It was certainly my first time viewing such a kind of horrific crash, and someone actually losing their life, and yeah, it kind of shakes you and stuff, and I think it brought up a lot of raw emotion. And You know, it showed how it affected the grid. It showed, you know, how it affected the drivers. You know, before Drive to Survive came out, that image of Lewis Hamilton in that interview when seeing it live, and he didn't know how to react. He just knew it looked bad, and he just knew he had to get out of there, but he wasn't sure, you know, how to do it. And yeah, I think it's always a difficult one to kind of do it and not kind of show it up a little bit, but it showed especially, you know, the effect of Pierre Gasly being his best friend. I think said they lived together, were roommates in the same room from age 13 to age 18, and you know, yeah, it must have been absolutely devastating for him. And I thought they handled that whole situation really well as it could be, in terms of, like I said, we lost a tragically lost a rising young star. I'll now move on to the things that I think could have been improved, and some kind of criticisms I've seen of it that I think are kind of probably fair to assess. And for me, I'm a little bit disappointed that not all the teams were covered. Obviously, in Drive to Survive Season 1, Ferrari and Mercedes chose not to take part, but in this one, I don't know if they chose not to, but Alfa Romeo and Racing Point didn't really kind of have any part other than looking ahead to 2020. And there was, you know, clips of Lance Stroll, Sergio Perez and Kimi Raikkonen at the end. And then, you know, Lando Norris didn't really feature, Daniel Kvyat didn't really feature. I was a little bit disappointed to kind of see, you know, Daniel Kvyat, he got a podium for a Toro Rosso in Germany. That was a massive story. Lando Norris, for me, had a fantastic rookie season, and it would have been interesting in how he galvanised a new fan base. It would have been interesting to kind of see him in a little bit more detail on the series. And obviously, you know, Giovinazzi, he had you know, it was his rookie season against an experienced Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen going to Alfa Romeo, you know, a step down, but building that team, it would have been fascinating to kind of have a deeper look in that. And obviously Racing Point, seeing the struggles of the transition of recovering from Force India going into liquidisation and moving forward as Racing Point. It would have been really interesting to kind of see those. And I think that is the main criticism overall. There are some key moments that, you know, were missed, like Vettel and Hamilton in Canada. You know, that was one of the most controversial incidents there. You know, doing the Leclerc and Vettel rivalry, doing the team orders in Bahrain, you know, talking about doing it all the way through the season rather than taking small little snippets from like Singapore and going on from there. I do realise it's a limited time to do things, and I'll add that into my concluding thoughts. But I think, yeah, some of these incidents, I think a few fans would have liked to have seen a little bit more in the series. Also, I've seen criticisms of it being a bit sketchy all over the place. You know, it doesn't really follow a clear path. It doesn't really, it's not really, this is the, some episodes it's like, this is the Mercedes episode, this is the Williams episode, but then this is Renault and McLaren, this is a little bit of fight between this is, you know, Red Bull and somebody else. Then suddenly Red Bull had 2 episodes pretty much dedicated to them, and Ferrari had an episode, but then, yeah, it was just a little bit all over the place in terms of the season, and, you know, some of the race footage and everything happening, it was a little bit jumbled. And I think for kind of fans of the sport who would notice those things, I think that was probably a little bit more frustrating in that front. But I get they're trying to manufacture things into telling a compelling storyline to kind of attract new interest. I would say the prime, you know, job of Drive to Survive is really to encourage new fans into the sport, because it gives just enough for fans like me to kind of, you know, be enthused and like the interaction, but it also, you know, it's really there to kind of build Formula One's base with that younger generation, with the streaming services on Netflix, getting a taste, going, oh, I like that driver, I want to know more about him. Oh, that team seemed really cool, I want to learn a little bit more about them. And they suddenly become an F1 fan, and that can only be good for the sport. But, you know, for the normal F1 fans, it was a little bit jumbly all over the place. A really good comment, actually, someone commented to me on Twitter, was saying that they were disappointed that there was nothing on Charlie Whiting. Niki Lauda they handled fantastically. Antoine Hubert they handled really well. Charlie Whiting, you know, such a big part in the safety of the sport. And, you know, racing director, he was such an integral and important part of the sport. And it was a little bit, well, it was a big shock, you know, when he sadly passed away just before the start of last season. And, you know, it would have been nice, maybe in the first episode was probably the best place to do it, as that was the build up to Melbourne in that episode. And so, you know, yeah, it really would have been nice if they did something for him as well, because those were the 3 lives that we lost last year that were kind of, yeah, a kind of real impact on the sport. And yeah, it's a shame that obviously they missed out on that one. But again, I understand some editing, but I feel that one was an important one to kind of have as part of the series. I now come to my concluding thoughts, and for me, Drive to Survive Season 2, I really enjoyed it. I kind of binged it. I knew I had a busy weekend, so I binged it all on the Friday. You know, I watched pretty much every episode one after the other, and I was hooked on it. I didn't want to walk away. I wasn't getting bored. I was interested to kind of see the stories that were being told. I was interested to find out a little bit more about the drivers. I was interested, you know, seeing how Gunther Steiner and Magnussen and Grosjean all went. And, you know, they were actually, you know, someone who was a big hit in Season 1, Gunther Steiner, I think actually comes out a little bit worse in this series, because, you know, he was far too emotional and went over the top, and, you know, it wasn't necessarily bad management style, but then was that editing, because they were like, that was so successful in Season 1, seeing Gunther lose it, are we just gonna, you know, show the bad moments of Gunther rather than the kind of more positive moments that they would have had throughout the season? And it was a difficult story with Haas as well, obviously, because they really went from nearly being best of the rest to really dropping off a cliff in performance. But I enjoyed all those human emotions, and I really felt like the drivers who featured, I got to know a little bit better. It doesn't feel like a show. It doesn't feel like they're just saying things for the camera in this Netflix one. Those kind of one-on-one interviews, like those little things, seeing Nico Hulkenberg and, you know, putting on that fake smile when clearly he's devastated inside that he won't be racing in F1 2020. You know, seeing the devastation of Pierre Gasly losing his friend, and, you know, and really struggling to deal with why he's not performing in, you know, the Red Bull car, and realising this is a great opportunity going forward. Lewis Hamilton, you know, seeing all those, I've mentioned them before, that human element of it, I really did enjoy it. And I really did enjoy seeing how Mercedes as a team operated, how Williams, you know, went through all that trouble, and a little bit more into it in detail of, you know, how it unfolded last year, that, you know, shocker that they weren't able to get to testing. And, you know, just seeing, obviously we had testing last week concluding, and just seeing that they were there for all 6 days, and that was fantastic to see that transformation already. But I thought that's really positive. The main criticism, like I said, is they didn't include some things that I think a lot of fans should have done, and a lot of fans of the sport feel were big moments and more, you know, big ones that they were actually looking forward to seeing how actually happened. But it is difficult. I enjoyed what I got. It's not going to be perfect, and you're never going to produce something that's going to make everything happy. Could they have included more things? Yes. Could there have been more episodes in the series than 10 episodes? Absolutely. You know, I would have loved to seen, like I said, Alfa Romeo and Racing Point in it, and their stories through the season as well. Because Alfa Romeo obviously started off competitively and then dropped off a cliff as well, and seeing how their team struggled to cope and deal with that. It would have been brilliant to see, but it is just a surface level, and beyond that surface level, you do actually get to know your drivers, even though all didn't feature. Those that did a little bit better, and I think that is Drive to Survive's main strength, and the main thing that I enjoy about it is I really enjoy kind of, with the kind of walls down, the media facade down, getting to know the drivers a little bit more, and really getting to kind of see the struggles and the real difficulties of what Formula One is. But that, guys, is my review of Drive to Survive Season 2. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope, you're interested in kind of my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts, though. I know it has got a mixed reception across, so it'd be really interesting to hear you guys. Do you think what you really enjoyed from it? What you thought it could have been better? What was your favourite moment? My favourite moment has to be, F1 Fantasy Weekly. We have our Kimi moment of the week. Kimi's little clip at the start, they're pumping it up, dramatic music, 2020, Christian Horner I think's going, is like going, we're going to push Lewis Hamilton all the fucking way. Max Verstappen is like going, build a competitive car, Racing Point coming in, and then this clip goes to Kimi and he's like, it's my hobby, I can give it up if I want to, just, don't have to do it if I don't want to. Just completely killed the moment and could not be more classic Kimi Räikkönen if it tried. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, guys. I really enjoyed the series as a whole, but I would love to hear your thoughts down below. And if you are new around here or you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification, and you can keep up to date with all our latest content just like this video. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing!